Hello and welcome back to the Well-Fed Freelancer, Well-Fed Business podcast. You won't know this, John. We actually changed the image
What image?
of the podcast
Why?
because it looked really shit. And the second thing is, even I didn't know what our podcast was because when we opened it up, it didn't have our faces on anymore. And I was like, oh, that's a big mistake. So we've just taken the design and put our faces on it. That's why I asked you for that picture of you the other day.
Okay, whatever. I'm happy. I don't care. I don't actually fucking look at the picture on the podcast, to be fair. I don't listen to podcasts.
I know, but you're available for work, like those numpties on LinkedIn changing their profile picture to that banner thing saying available for work, which just, how desperate does that look?
I know. Shall I do that for a laugh?
Oh, God.
That'd be fucking hilarious. And then say, I'm sorry to disappoint you and all that, but it's really about me going on podcasts.
Yeah, it could be funny. The EBG available for work.
Yeah. We'll consider anything.
Yeah, what's the pitch for you going on other people's podcasts?
Weed out your listener base. You know, get rid of all the fucking numpties and the snowflakes from your listener base. You know, I'm basically podcast version of Domestos.
You're funny, mate, because even when I ask you for your pitch, your pitch is geared towards the benefit for them. So get rid of the snowflakes in their listener base. Most people would start by saying, "I am a 50-something-year-old man. I am 5'4" with lovely blue eyes, which doesn't matter because it's a podcast, and I am Mr. Autismo 3.0.
I was born at a very young age. I did a paper round at the age of 17. I went to this primary school, then this middle school, then this secondary school. I mean, that's what people do. They're so fucking boring.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'd be a good guest on your podcast.
I know. Well, this sales shit is ingrained in me, isn't it? I've been doing it for so fucking long.
And John, you know we improved, we up-leveled our sales skills with the UK's most hated sales trainer, and we've read No by Jim Camp, and it's all about questions. I now find myself in everyday life just speaking in questions. There you go.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, I do as well. Haven't you noticed?
Do you really think I'm that dim to have not have noticed?
Do people think you're dim?
Why would you even ask that question?
Wouldn't you be curious?
Curious about what?
This could go on for hours, couldn't it?
Perhaps we should do a podcast called the Question Cast, and the first one to not ask a question loses.
I'm up for that. Are you?
Yeah, perhaps we'll do that next week. Shit. Oh, fuck me.
Yeah, I do it. Yeah, and I when you, I mean, if when you're, it's like people who've, well, my analogy would be like this: when people start doing things like NLP, they just come across as being, well, how do you feel about that then? What would it be like if that wasn't true? It's like really artificial and false. And when people start questioning, they're often doing the same thing. It comes across as contrived. But I've been doing it for so long, and I'm pretty good at it. It doesn't come across as unnatural at all. When you first start doing it, and it was so long ago that I read Jim Camp's stuff and that kind of thing, and Shameless Brown and what have you. I can't remember what it was like, but when you first start doing it, it does feel a bit odd. But when you get used to it and you become skilled at it, it's just natural.
Would you say there is a better sales technique than the ability to ask good questions?
Well, better is an interesting word because how are we measuring this? I mean, do I personally, using my measure of better, which would be 1, effective, and 2, ethical? No, I don't think there is. I mean, interestingly enough, I had a message today from one of my clients, PT, who basically sent someone a message on LinkedIn, just a normal connection request. And the guy came back and said, because in his request he says something along the lines of, "Don't worry, I'm not going to start pitching you." And the guy came back and says, "Oh, you can start pitching me anytime you like." So my client just said, "Oh, I wouldn't know what to pitch you on because I don't even know if you've got any challenges or even if I could help you. What kind of challenges have you got?" Bingo. So this guy, and then it went on a couple of other messages backwards and forwards, and it went from this guy saying, "You can pitch me, I'm not interested in fitness or anything else," to this guy saying, "We should talk. Where do I book a call?" Because my client's just been asking questions. Well, are you happy with the way you look right now? Really fucking low key stuff. So no, I don't think there is any better way. And by better, I mean ethical and effective.
I think the interesting thing there is the ethical part, because your sales process then it's extremely user centric. The person receiving all of the questions, and they feel looked after, they feel comfortable, and ultimately you don't pitch them if you've got nothing to pitch them. Where most sales is just about ramming your thing down their throat, regardless of what they say. Nail in the hammer.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is the typical way. And I think when freelancers and other business owners say, "Oh, I don't like selling, I don't want to appear salesy," that's what they mean. They don't want to do that, and they don't know enough about they don't know enough about the subject to be able to articulate that. So they just say, "I don't like selling." What they don't understand is, there are two ways of selling: transactionally, like that, or transformationally, where you just ask questions, and it's almost like a multiple choice. It's almost like the Chinese some years ago did a big football stadium full of people. Each one held a balloon, and they would ask a question. And if the answer is yes, you'd let go of the balloon. If the answer is no, you'd hold on to it or whatever. And by doing that, anyone who got the wrong answer and let go of the balloon or something would leave the thing. So it just basically it whittled down the audience. And sometimes it was, it wasn't as simple as just holding on to the balloon, because they'd give him another balloon. So if you got the wrong answer, you had to leave the auditorium. And us asking questions a little bit like that. Every time they give an answer that means I can't help you, then they're out of the running. So in the end, they just rattle down like into a funnel. So at the end, if they've answered all the right questions the right way, yeah, I can help you, and here's how. And because of the way you ask the questions, they would often have sold themselves, because they realise by answering your questions, shit, I'm in a really bad place.
Yeah. Have you tried solving this on your own before? Yes. Then did it work?
Yeah.
No. Do you think you'll be able to succeed next time? Probably not. Would you like some help with that? Yes.
Yeah.
It's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is easy. It really is easy.
And that whole balloon thing, that sounds like it's going to be in series 2 of the Squid Games, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch season 1?
No, I don't watch that kind of thing very often.
Didn't you try and watch it?
No, I watched about 10 minutes of it one day when Sarah wasn't around, but I'm not that bothered. I watch Netflix only with Sarah, and she's not interested in that kind of thing, so I don't bother.
Fair enough. What does Sarah like?
Anal. Oh, sorry, that's not what you meant, is it? We tend to watch a lot of Nordic noir, mysteries, psychological thrillers, that kind of thing.
Fair enough. What the fuck is Nordic noir? Sounds like a porn category.
It's the fucking Scandinavian crime thrillers and things. Some of them are really good, and I like it because it's got really fucking hot Swedish women and stuff in it.
Ones that tower over you.
They all tower over me, mate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I remember watching a short news segment video online. It was about the Norwegian special forces, and it was a small unit of women, deliberately chosen as women. So you got these really fucking hot Scandinavian blondes kicking ass and fucking waving machine guns around. It's so fucking hot, I tell you. So fucking hot. I know. So predictable, John.
Yeah, incredibly predictable. but not as predictable as us talking about the recession.
No. Good segue. That good segue. Yeah, it's coming, because what concerns me, you see, is not the recession, by the way, is we talked about it the other day when we said people have got this common thing to focus on: the Queen's funeral, the Queen's death. But come Monday, when she's dead and buried, she's dead now. When she's buried on Monday, what's the next thing? Well, maybe the coronation, but that's not going to have the same emotional impact. But once this is all done and dusted, say another month or so, whatever, reality is going to come back and bite people. And we are in recession. We are heading towards a fucking really nasty one. And people don't seem to be taking it seriously. And I find that quite concerning.
As you should.
Yeah. It's almost like, because COVID was so fucking bad, they think it's all over now, but it's not.
Yeah, surely it can't be that bad.
Yeah, now we've got to deal with the effects of what COVID, the knock-on effects of COVID. And I was actually talking to Mrs. EBG this morning. We could have another pandemic anytime now of something that isn't COVID, something worse, because nothing has fundamentally changed, and pandemics are random. They're not, the fact we had a COVID pandemic the last couple of years doesn't mean to say we couldn't have something, another bug tomorrow.
There's monkeypox in New York at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that's it might be a pandemic, but I mean that's less troublesome, because unless you're kind of butt fucking people and tonguing them, you're not going to catch it. It's not
Fair
like
enough.
you walk around the supermarket and catch monkeypox, is it?
Sarah's got to be careful then.
But it is. I mean, it could be a pandemic. It's not. It won't be in the same way. But we could have something like MERS or SARS, beg your pardon. MERS had a 30% mortality rate. Fortunately, they contained it. Yeah, but imagine if it had spread, if it was more virulent, which it could be. We're living on borrowed time, really, with pandemics. People don't seem to understand that now, because the way human beings measure risk, they don't do it in any rational way. They basically measure risk and probability by when did it happen most recently. Well, we've just had a pandemic, so we can't have another one. Well, the two things are a pandemic then and a pandemic now are completely unrelated. They could be if there's a different bug. There's no reason we couldn't have a fresh one every week. It's unlikely, but we could. There's no reason we couldn't. It's just if it's random.
Yeah, there's no God upstairs saying, "Oh, they've had their pandemic. I'll wait 10 more years."
Exactly. And this is, of course, why we have property bust and boom and recession often, because we haven't had a really bad recession for probably 15 years now. So hey, 2018. So we don't have recessions. A lot of the people in business today are, say, in their 30s, successful business owners. Well, they were still at school in the last recession. They won't remember it.
Look at me.
Do I have to?
I'm far better looking. Think how I feel. I've got to look at you.
So, recession, and I say it's going to be pretty bad, but there's a few things I predict for it. The first is we're going to see an increase in the number of biz ops, and they're going to get ever more desperate, because they're fairly desperate anyway with their outrageous headlines and promises, and they're just going to get worse. So you can expect more. You get more spam. Yeah, more people saying your long lost uncle has died and I found your name online and that kind of stuff. Religion will do well. Religion always does well in tough times.
Well, they don't pay tax.
Well, not just that, but people are desperate, aren't they?
Yeah. Pray to God, he'll sort it out.
Yeah. And I also suspect the LinkedIn influencers and coaches will get ever more. Coaches in general and LinkedIn influencers and other social media influencers who sell business stuff will get ever more desperate too, because they don't really have any selling skills. Yeah, absolutely, without doubt.
So what do people need to be focusing on to best prepare themselves for the recession?
Systems, mate.
Systems.
I mean, solid systems for attraction, selling, seducing and selling. The fact is, it's unlikely. Not, I mean, some people will, but most business owners, almost no matter what they do now, they're not going to, it's unlikely they will experience explosive growth or massive growth. Some of them might not grow at all. What they will do, though, is they will consolidate their position. So when the recession is over, as it will be, they always end at some point. They will be the ones who are launching themselves from a solid platform, as opposed to people who sit there battening down the hatches, saving money, eating their seed corn, so to speak. Okay, recession's over now, so we can start building some marketing systems. Well, that might take 6 months to a year to do. Well, then they've got 6 months to a year of, okay, a better economy, but they're still doing badly because they're not selling themselves. It reminds me of, I mean, a little bit like a few years ago, Dan Kennedy tells a story, a few years ago, well, probably 20 years ago now, there was a restaurant that burned down. And you'd think for a restaurant, that would be the end of the world. You know, it's done. But what they did, they had a list, they had a customer list. So they regularly mailed their customer list, just updating them, sent them a newsletter, updating them on progress of rebuilding the restaurant. So when the restaurant was able to open again, probably 18 months later, they were full from day one. And not just the full restaurant of it, this is something new, but their old customers came back, their old diners came back. Mm-hmm. So they were able to hit the ground running. Well, that's a good analogy.
That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah, the economy is burning down, so we need to keep people interested in us. And yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's going to mean spending money on marketing or investing money in marketing infrastructure that might not pay dividends immediately or obvious dividends immediately. It probably will, because even if you're staying still, if you're not marketing, you're going to start sinking. So it might seem like you're just maintaining, a bit like going to the gym, maintaining your weight, maintaining your muscles. You're not building muscle, but you're not losing it either. Well, it's going to be a little bit like that. It's going to be hard work, and you think we're not getting anywhere. But yes, you are. You're not backsliding. You're not sinking. You're staying afloat.
You're full of good analogies. The gym one is another fantastic analogy. You still have to go to the gym to keep those muscles. In a recession, you still got to market your fucking business.
Yeah, and even though it's just treading water, well, that's just a fact of life.
Treading water.
Treading water, staying afloat.
And I was going to say treading water is a success in a recession.
Yeah, of course it is. It is. If you're staying afloat and everyone else is drowning, that's successful.
Yeah, the survivors of the Titanic weren't upset that they didn't get to rebuild the Titanic as well. They were just happy that they stayed floating.
It's pretty fucking sad to see that some people are spending their days moaning and whining about what's happening instead of doing something about it. Even if doing something about it means not improving or just not sinking any deeper than you are now. I just don't understand it. If you go on LinkedIn we use LinkedIn a lot because it is the business platform of choice for most people. It could be any social media platform. But if you go on LinkedIn and spend your time pissing and moaning and wailing and gnashing your teeth about business, all you're going to do is you're going to make yourself feel worse. You're going to attract people to you who like to piss and moan and wail and gnash their teeth. And you're just going to convince yourself that there is no hope, there's nothing to be done about it. You're not going to get people coming onto your threads trying to fucking coach you or jockey you along. You might get someone come along and try and sell you something, of course. But like I said, that's we can expect to see that, I think.
Mm-hmm. And what about their pricing and whatnot? Because the knee-jerk reaction in a recession, there's not enough money to go around anymore, so I have to drop my prices. Is that a smart thing to do?
No, not at all. Not even slightly. Here's the thing. Imagine we have a really fucking bad recession and unemployment was at, say, 20%, which is probably unheard of. All right. That still means we got 80% employment.
Mm-hmm.
We are as human beings, we are hardwired to avoid the negative, to spot and avoid the negative. And I get why. Because as long as something is safe enough not to kill you, it doesn't really matter how good it is. Yeah. And something only has to kill you once and you're dead. So it's much more important for us to avoid dangerous things. We can come across any number of good things, and after a certain point, they won't materially improve our lives at all. But we only need one bad thing to kill us.
Yeah.
So it's not an equal split. So we are hardwired to pay attention to and worry about and focus on the negative and the dangerous. And although these things aren't dangerous in the sense they're going to kill us, I mean, we live in the fucking first world. Almost no one's going to starve to death over here. Even if you're made homeless, you're not really without a roof over your head and no food. It's very small percentage of people are on the street, and most of those have got very severe mental health problems too, which of course is not improved by the fact they're homeless. But that's another topic.
Yeah, that is a whole nother topic.
That is a whole nother topic. But it's not that dangerous. I think most people, the worst thing about going bankrupt or your business failing or losing your home for most people is actually the blow to their ego, the embarrassment they feel, the social stigma.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not actually dangerous, really. And imagine if you were 25 years old or 30 years old and you lose everything. You've probably got another 60 years left to get it all back. It's not like you're 57.
Yeah. What did I say to you the other day? I said, like, the worst outcome that could ever happen to me is that I still live in luxury. I still have a roof over my head. I still have food in the cupboard. Like, the worst case scenario is, in fact, quite nice. I could just go with council house, benefits, food stamps, and I would have all the time in the world to fucking build another business.
Yeah. I mean, Earl Nightingale used to say that, and this is going back in the 80s. He died in 88, I think, so it was in the 80s. So he used to say that people have kind of social scientists have worked out that for people who lived as they lived in the 80s, for people to have lived 200 years before that in the same level of luxury, they would have required an estate and a staff of 150 people.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And things like washing machines, food production, transport, maintenance of the infrastructure and things, gathering wood, etc. Add it all up, it would have required about 150. And some of the stuff they just couldn't have done. I mean, there was no electricity, for instance. But to achieve a kind of equivalent level of luxury would have taken a staff of about 150 people. Yeah, educating kids, looking after children, medical care. Well, imagine what it is like. Imagine what it's like now, Connor. I can get it. I mean, one of the things about our gold meeting, I don't know, it will increase as you get close to the date. But right now, people can book a flight from Stansted to Cork for 30 quid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine how much that infrastructure costs. 2 airports on a fuck-off aeroplane, air traffic control, all the stuff required to make the plane, to build the airport, to fuel the plane, to train the pilots, to ensure everything's safe. I mean, it's billions of pounds worth of infrastructure, and you get to use it for 30 quid to get to probably make a trip which would have cost you, well, it would have taken you probably a week or two, and would have probably cost you more than most people could afford 200 years ago.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is nuts, and we just take it for granted.
We do take it for granted. Something else that is a little bit odd is I've just realised when I put my head here, it kind of looks like I've got devil horns.
I suppose it does, yes. I never really thought about it.
No, me neither. I was just looking at myself, thinking that how lucky and luxurious I am. And I was like, this dickhead's got devil horns. All right, go buy the fucking book, well-fed-freelancer.com. And also, John is available for work. So if you want to book John...
to speak on your podcast or stack shelves in your supermarket.
Either. He'll do anything at the moment. Drop him a message on LinkedIn and he'll get back to you there. Also, we've finally sorted out the fucking podcast system as a whole. You probably would have noticed we sound miles better than we used to, and we're actually starting to produce some clips. So expect to see us on YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and everything fucking else very, very soon. In the meantime, stay safe. Don't lower your prices and survive the recession.
Don't shit on your fingers.
Don't shit on your fingers. Bye-bye.
So, boys and girls.